bad times, and some very violent times. Mostly violent times, actually, if I'm adding them up. Every street corner hosts a memory. The nook I hung out in with that sentient vending machine. The alley where Gary the Prophet used to live. The road I got run over by my own self-driving car. The shopping centre I killed loads of hoodlums in. The car park I killed loads of hoodlums in. The beautiful apartment I killed loads of hoodlums in. The hotel. Killed loads of hoodlums there. Good times. As long as you weren't a hoodlum. And now, in Phantom Liberty, it expands.
Hey, you a fresh face, so listen up. Here in D-Town, you watch what you say. Talk to the wrong chew, blam, you're dead.
You never know what you're going to get in a video game expansion. Will it be a little bit more of the stuff you love, like reaching into an empty bag of Starburst and finding bonus sweets hidden among the wrappers? Perhaps the DLC will recontextualize the campaign's action, offering a perspective shift or mechanical twist, like reaching into your empty bag of Starburst and finding a Kit Kat. Or it could be what CD Projekt Red did in The Witcher 3, adding a new region and enough quest lines that it felt like you were reaching into an empty bag of Starburst and finding a whole other bag of Starburst. You'll be glad to hear that Cyberpunk 2077 continues the generosity of The Witcher 3, though I'd hesitate to compare it to a bag of sweet treats. Where Geralt's blood and wine adventure took him to sunny vineyards, Phantom Liberty is Night City's shadiest borough yet. The walled district of Dogtown, a half-built pleasure complex turned war zone, cut off from Night City and left to the mercy of a military strongman. Leaving Pacifica's familiar streets for this new neighbourhood is like lifting a paving slab in your back garden and revealing a writhing society of woodlice underneath. Of course, just like woodlice are sometimes called grandfathers, which I think is really nice, one of the woodlice is Idris Elba in a lovely coat, so it's not all bad.
Before we go, apologies for the precautions.
Like Blood and Wine, Phantom Liberty also feels like a new ending of sorts. It's not technically an ending, it slots in about a third of the way through V's story, so it's more of a detour than an epilogue. But the society it depicts and the ideas it ponders definitely concern the end of an era. And once it's all wrapped up, you can't help but think about V and their deadly passenger in a slightly new light. Are we seeking liberty for phantoms, or liberty from our phantoms? I won't spoil story specifics, but you can see how the name might relate to V's central problem. It's also confirmed that this is CD Projekt Red's only planned expansion for Cyberpunk 2077, so it's a final trip in that sense too. It arrives alongside a huge makeover, the 2.0 update, that radically changes the behaviour of the whole game. That update is free, and Phantom Liberty is a paid expansion. But I think both parts feed into a sense of an ending. Both elements feel like final destinations in Cyberpunk 2077's wild journey of reinvention.
Got this token? Mean anything to you?
But I need to make sure.
Keeps his cards close, this one.
So, how does this add up to a perfect farewell to Cyberpunk 2077? For starters, the irony isn't lost on us that CD Projekt Red basically are Ripperdocs at this point. Though instead of putting a mercenary under their scalpel, they've torn out role-playing systems Cyberpunk launched with and grafted in newer, better parts. Take Cyberware, for example. These are the bionic bits that give you springs in your leg for a double jump, or attaches gorilla arms capable of opening the stiffest jam jar lids. These parts now draw from a pool of points, limited by your level and character. As a result, you pick parts judiciously and work towards specific builds that feel more satisfying to devise and execute. You can also install armor plates, which means regular clothes lose their armor rating. They become purely cosmetic, which lets you dress as superficially as you like without fretting about whether your hipster t-shirt is bulletproof or not, which is a lot more like Night City in attitude. Then you have the perk overhaul. CD Projekt Red tweaked these before, trying to weed out lesser perks, but this revamp takes a nuke to the whole system. Every perk now gives you a new ability or tangibly alters an existing one. I'm talking netrunners queuing up multiple hacks to combo the victim's brain into mushy Weetabix, or even overclock their own brains to use health instead of RAM to trigger quick hacks. It lets you play with much nastier powers, much more often. Apply the update to a later save and you're asked to invest all those new points anew and are almost drowning in choices. We were tempted to start a fresh save and enjoy the new power curve from the beginning and see the new build come together in a meaningful way. But we could not resist pairing those endgame guns with perks that boost dead-eye headshots or hits made at full stamina. Oh yeah, gun stamina is a thing now, as are grenades and health items on a cooldown. I really can't stress this enough, it is a totally different combat experience. And while more changes might be made down the line, it feels like Cyberpunk has gone full Goldilocks here. Not too needlessly complicated, not too stripped back, but just right. More importantly, should the three bears come back, Goldilocks can just download a virtual plague into their brains. And we all live happily ever after. Part of Phantom Liberty's magic is taking all that good 2.0 stuff and showcasing it in the best way. Take vehicle combat or advanced police tactics, for example. Out in regular Night City, they inject a dose of GTA magic, especially as you push the wanted level all the way and go toe-to-toe with max tac. Truly terrifying stuff. In Dogtown, these systems get to star in a few missions as you sneak through hostile territory, or live out your gone in 60 seconds fantasies by jacking rare cars from the war zone and smuggling them out to El Capitan. Phantom Liberty also unlocks a sixth branch of the ability tree, finally solving the mystery of what was meant to go in that fizzing slot. I'd always hoped it was going to be some dubious rocker boy powers gifted from Johnny, but I will settle for what it actually is. A range of cyberware upgrades that do some truly brilliant things with your augments. Want to load your monowire with quick hacks to melt goons on contact? I'm both backing away from you and telling you you're going to be very happy. My own psychotic pick is vulnerability analytics, which map AR targets, the little diamonds, onto enemies to show places you can shoot for explosive damage. It turns every guard into a tiny carnival shooting gallery, only sadly without a goldfish in a bag for hitting them all. It's actually quite funny that so many of your toys are designed to go loud and create the biggest mess possible, as the defining vibe of Phantom Liberty is the simmering tension of a spy thriller. I'm not going to explain the hows and whys, but after an explosive opening stretch, this, believe it or not, is one of the smaller things that happens. The narrative hits the crouch button and plays it cool and stealthy. You are out of your depth in Dogtown, a welcome change to the rock and roll strut of V's main campaign, and a chance for writers to create a very different kind of story. A lot of this is down to Idris Elba as Solomon Reed, an equally starry bit of casting to Keanu Reeves, but very different. Where Johnny is a hothead anarchist, wearing you down into submission, Reed is calm and convincing, an undercover puppet master you desperately want to impress. Until someone makes a Luther game, this is the closest we are going to get. Now to open the can of worms as to which coat is better, Luther's or Reed's.
One thing eludes me. What drove you to get entangled in this mess?
It has to be said that the missions you do together are stupidly fun. Phantom Liberty feels like a blend of Mission Impossible and James Bond. There are loads of those great scenes where people huddle around maps and go over each step of complicated plans. You can even ask the dumb clarifying questions you always wish people would ask in Mission Impossible, before taking on the plan firsthand and seeing it go very right or very wrong. There's even a face-stealing machine and a silenced pistol named Her Majesty, just in case the homage slips you by. One thing we've always loved about Cyberpunk 2077 is the way it manages to do very tense thriller scenes, infiltrating a high-stakes casino or protecting a friend with sniper cover. But then when everything goes south, that meaty gunplay kicks in and you unleash all the mad cyber tricks you've been saving for a painy day. There are several missions here as exciting as the legendary Konpeki Plaza heist, and that Phantom Liberty is so good at going very, very small and then very, very big in. It feels like CD Projekt Red are really mastering their world. And that's not even my favourite bit of Phantom Liberty. I mean, there are loads of good bits. You get to roll with a political figure you would never peg for a good hang, but proves to be amazing with a shotgun. Then there's the shadowy power broker, who's only a bit part in the main game but gets a juicy role here. And there are the gigs, little side contracts that are so much more narratively rich here that they rival the proper side missions. But my favourite bit is none of those things. The thing Cyberpunk 2077 does better than most other games is regret. Not a sexy sales pitch, I know, and certainly not something CD Projekt Red would shout about in their update notes. But I think it's true. I'm not talking about the obvious regrets that come in any game that deals in choice and consequence. Cyberpunk 2077 does those really well too. The campaign is 50 or so hours of Scumbag A telling you not to side with Scumbag B, and Scumbag B telling you not to side with Scumbag A until a choice has to be made. So you pause the game, go and have a biscuit, and then come back and press square to doom half the city. Oh well, at least you enjoyed the ginger nut. But I'm thinking here of the people you meet along V's journey. Everyone striving to get by in this hellish dystopia. For all of Cyberpunk's boisterous energy, the thumping soundtrack, the wild fashions, the screeching TV shows, the uninhibited capitalism of a city that literally pukes adverts into the sky. For all that noise, what Cyberpunk 2077 is really about is rejecting that life. I often think of Rogue, the fixer who has it all, but whose eyes only truly light up when she sees her old boyfriend's car.
This Johnny's Porsche?
Or Panam, her personality punk have never been clearer. If this is to be goodbye,